In the meantime, just post it on the chat anytime, and we'll go through the question as we go along. So that's the intro slide today. So I'm going to do a quick intro based on what already Drew mentioned, and also give you more information. So my name is Denny, that much you know. I originally come from Malaysia, but I've been living in different places. I studied in UK, I live in Belgium, I worked and live in China, and now in Finland, Helsinki. Drew said I have 4 degrees. Probably there's a few more. But the fact is I have 2 degrees, 2 engineering degrees from 2 different countries in 2 different areas, and then an MBA from Belgium. Study is definitely one of my favorite thing. Learning, I think that's more true. I got my first gig in freelancing in 2007, right? Since today we're going to be talking about freelancing, the opportunity of freelancing, and what it means for those who want to do freelance. So hence I thought I would share that with you. So my first gig is about nearly 15 years ago or something like that. If you do the math, so even more than that, 20 plus years. And then from there, I actually worked in gigs for some time, and then jumped in 2009 to my first startup when I started building my own company after moving from the gig freelancing. And fast forward to 2020, I have started at least 4 startups. The 4 here is the most successful one. The others is all fail, and there's not worth mentioning. So so in between, I also do a lot of gigs in between, and a lot of times also work for companies in between. And next year, January, I'll be moving to Silicon Valley, to San Francisco. So that's the idea. If you're doing startup, then you want to go to the center of the startup world. And still today, it's the Silicon Valley is still one of those. So next year, this is where I'm heading to. All right. Moving forward. So the agenda today, I put together, since I have about 2 hours, I say, okay, what am I going to talk about, right? The monologue that I would have to give, I thought. I'm going to talk briefly about freelance, for those who you might know or might not know what freelancing is about. I'll briefly look at the trend, when it started, and how is it going to go in the future, freelancing. And if you want to do freelancing, where would you start? Where do you go, right? That's how I'm going to talk about that too. And then why would you want to do freelancing? There's all different reasons, right? I mean, there's some obvious reasons, some less obvious reasons. I'll talk briefly about that. And then I'll say what it takes for you to be freelancing. How do you get started? How can you be successful? What's the action plan? So this is sort of like the agenda for the next 1.5 hours or so. Keeping in mind, this is your session. I'm here to help you guys. So if you have any questions, just ask, right? So Drew will pick it up in the chat as we go along. All right, so let's get started. And next one. Before I start, actually, I would like you to do a few things for me. This is actually a questionnaire that I put together that you can help me by answering these 2 questions by either scanning the QR code here. If you have your mobile phone, you'll direct you to the page, or I'm going to put the link here on the chat for those who have access to internet connection. That is the questionnaire in the chat, to the URL to the questionnaire. So if you could do me a favor, either scan the QR code or click on the URL in the chat. Take a moment to answer these 2 questions. If you have internet connection, then that'll be great. If you don't, then that's also fine. But the more of you who answered, the better we can have a clear idea who is on the line and what are you interested in. And I'll share the result with you right away. So I'm going to give 5 minutes or so for everyone to get there. I'm going to also share my screen here. So you can actually see the results in real time. So these are people's. This is your result, right? A few person already mentioned that they have more than 5 years of experience in freelancing. There are some of you guys less than 2 years, so that's good. So there's not a lot of newbie. It seems everybody has already some time working experience in freelancing. But it's good to know. So I can also modulate what I'm saying here based on what you already know. So 4 of you have answered out of what, about 20 of you today? There's about 23, yeah. So I'm going to give you guys a few more minutes for those who can still make it to the Slido questionnaire. Just take a moment to click through these 2 questions. Yes. Yeah. One more. Applied less than 2 years, just starting. Okay, good. There's 20% of you are just starting. So there's like 60%. All right. I'll come back again to this tab as we go along to check back, right? So there's a few more people coming in to sign up. Yes, that's good. Just starting up, so there's about 33% now starting up. So out of 6 people, yeah, that's good. Okay, good. I'm going to move back to my slide deck. So, all right. So now you can see back here. So the next one I want to talk about is, obviously, I want to start with a very basic thing, the definition of freelancing, right? It's about earning one's living as a freelance. That actually started in the 19th century. A word that means mercenary. Used to be written in 2 sentences, 2 words. I mean, separately, free and lancing. Right now, it's freelancing. So as you can see, there's this search metrics down there. The chart sort of like pick up all the way to 2019. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the next hour or so. Freelancing. So freelancing in Africa. So when I was doing preparation for this slide, I was just researching a bit how big is the Africa gig economy will be. So it is a $28 billion market, as they say. There are about 120 million self-employed Africans, and it's growing about 70% annually, which is really not too bad, right? It's a big number, and it's still growing fast. So I think this is important to also take note from your side to understand that this is something that will continue to grow, given that it is just really at the beginning stage, if you like. Then I tried to look at also compared it to US markets, how different would that be? So then the quick research I found that's actually 1.5 billion freelance globally, okay? It's not just US, but globally. But the revenue itself in US is about 1.5 trillion. Well, 1.5 trillion, how many zeros are those? So compared to the 28 billion and the 1.5 trillion, so that's still a long way to go. And what's also interesting for me is to understand that actually 35% of the global workforce are actually freelancers. It means that actually there's actually a huge amount of increase of number of freelance people working. I was surprised by this number anyway. So actually, it's a good thing. It's a good thing because it means that it is still a lot of opportunity to grow, and more people will actually move into this type of work. And of course, the biggest platform for freelancing today is Upwork. Upwork, again, is founded actually in 1999. So that's one of the earliest freelance platform. They were founded as Elance, and then later on they merged 2 companies together with Odesk in 2015 to become Upwork. And today it is a 4.1 billion business marketplace, a transaction of 4 billion. And so that's the interesting numbers, right? And the revenue is around 600 million, so that you get an idea also the massiveness of this type of business. The next thing I like to show you is also the gross service value per customers, meaning that company who goes to Upwork, in average, spends about $5,000 to outsource work. So as you can see, this number is continually increasing. Even during the COVID time, it has dropped, but it has then climbed much higher back. And this trend will continue to grow, right? So that's the key part of it. And it's important to note that, of course, this is more like a general global trend. Probably there will be specific numbers for Africa, right? Or Uganda in this case. Now, if you go to Upwork today, you can already find some sort of freelancer list also for people from Uganda in Kampala. So here you can see there's a few just in the print screen there. So it's actually some of you guys are already there, right? I assume maybe not here, but some of the individuals in Uganda is already there. And other numbers of other platforms that you can go to is, of course, Freelancer, Fiverr, Upwork, and Dribbble. These are a few things that comes up depending on the type of work that you want to do. Dribbble is more for creative, Fiverr too, and then Upwork and Freelancer are much more a general purpose freelancing for all different type of work. So this is some big names. But if you dig a bit further, there are much more other alternatives too around those. And there's some, this is a blog post that somebody wrote where they can find all other type of freelancing platform. The link is down there, but I'll share all these slides with you guys once at the end of this presentation, so you can get all the links too. And the next slide here is actually an interesting bit, because here is somebody who actually did the work to map out the type of outsourcing or freelancing work you could find. So there you have the graphic design, you have e-learning, you have translation, you have the general outsourcing or freelancing, and all from web design development to media to hospitality, all the different types. So then again, it's really depending on what area you're active in or what you're interested on. So that's really cool. So moving forward, again, here you have also, if you're not familiar with the Amazon Mechanical Turk, this is actually 24 hours online, of course, a platform for people and companies to outsource small tasks, whether that is labeling of data, checking of documents, whatever. This is, you should check it out too. I think this is also interesting to look at it from a very granular perspective, where complex work are broken down to very small chunk and outsourced. So it's also an interesting concept to have for you to check it out. And why would you do freelancing, right? I mean, of course, it is a source of revenue, but you have options or not, right? Depending. First one is you can get a job, right? Get a job to earn a salary. You can, take out a living in whatever ways you find to make that work. You could rely on families and friends. That's also possibilities. You can do illegal stuff. That's probably make a lot of money because it's illegal. Or you can sell or resell stuff. That's also possible. Or create added value services. And of course, freelancing is one of those. And then you have others. Now, today, the reason why I would like to list it there is because freelancing, like any other channel, is one of those many channels. And I think for some it works, for some it works better, for some it works less. And then the next few minutes, a few hours, you'll see what works and what does not work, right? What does it take for you to be successful? So that's just a quick overview. And then I thought, okay, if people want to do freelancing, what would they be doing, right? What type of work do you have? Here in this pie chart, you'll see that web developer or software developer is actually a big chunk of the work today that has been outsourced through freelancing, about 20% of those. And then you have marketing, and then comes consultancy, and then software development and web development, right? Developer in general is also often programmer and software. And then you have all this other stuff on the left sides, from Google Ads, SEO, Shopify, creation of platform to CRM, copywriting, and all that stuff. This is already the long tail. So basically, depending on what skills you have and what interests you have, expertise you have, it's high chance that you will be able to find work through freelancing platform. And from this, you can also see what sector is active in freelancing. Again, keep in mind this is idea from Upwork. Then I would have to say that in Africa, I have not 100% familiar, but ideas, at least it'll give you an idea of what's possible out there. So art and design is a big sector that is freelancing, marketing, of course. Then it comes the computer and mathematics part and so forth, as you can see, right? So interesting also to compare that to the work that you have back in Africa or in Uganda, but also to understand the bigger picture of the freelance market where you can connect to, right? I mean, nothing prevents you to acquire freelancing work outside of Uganda or outside of Africa. So this is interesting part to look at, depending on your expertise and interest again. I also took some time to understand, okay, today, what is the highest paying freelance job? Those are 19 of those there. Copywriting apparently is a good one too. I've seen a lot of copywriters also working in Uganda. And of course, for those software developer, that's definitely there. And for those creative one, digital marketing, web designing is also there. And also data analyst, right? And business consultant, depending on your skills again. There's also a video photographer. And also virtual assistant, right? Helping people to organize the schedule and make sense of the documents and all that. So I think it's interesting, again, to get your head around it, to understand what is it that you're doing and what is it that you want to do. Now, this slide is trying to give you an idea of what in US a freelance will earn on an annual basis. Yeah, average, right? So if you are a writer in US, then you could potentially earn up to 40K a year. And if you are a programmer, you can push it out all the way to 120K or so. And again, keep in mind, this is an average, and this is what's happening in US. And you also want to tap into work like that's on that level, right? So that will be a step change, much higher compared to a typical salary you get for this role in Uganda. So that's why second reason why it's important for you to look at this freelancing opportunity, because of this gap difference of salary. Now on the demand side, the most 10 demand tech skill will be web design, WordPress setup. Again, these are from Upwork's work, and these are all the programming language, CSS, HTML, PHP, and Shopify. These are the top 10 most demanding. Of course, there are tons of others, but these are just top 10, just to give you an idea. And the top 10 demand for marketing skill is social media marketing, lead generation, Facebook, and so forth. So this is also interesting for you to see, again, what skills or what area do you want to specialize in? Think about that. Most demanded customer service skills, customer service, customer support, email communication, phone support. These are also in work that is out there that you could actually help or start doing whenever that, if that's the thing that you want to do. So interesting to just understand again what's out there. So come the second slide, second survey. I want you to take a time to actually answer another two questions that I'm going to put the Slido here too. That will actually give me a feeling or understanding what skill are you sort of like looking to develop or your expertise. So I put the URL for the Slido in the chat, and for those who have a mobile phone, you can scan the QR code and it will take you to the survey. And I'm going to also share my screen so you can also see the outcome. Okay, so
Denny, are we supposed to find a specific question there?
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
On
If you
mine, I don't see any. Maybe I. Okay,
yeah,
I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it. It was loading.
as
I've
well as
seen it.
loading. Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. Okay. So there's a massage therapy. So that's good. So 6 people are typing there. That's good. Motion graphic designer. Cool. Software development, voiceover, copywriting. Hey, that's actually very good. Software development. Yeah, a few more. Mobile application development. Yes. Very cool. And then there's a next question that second question is actually asking you, when do you want to start freelancing? It says. So if you would scroll through next. Yeah, that's cool. So most people want to start now. Some say next 3 months. That's good. That's cool. All right, 11 of you have replied. It's very good. Software development still be the key part. Okay, very good. Very cool. So most of you, 80%, over 80% want to start right away. That's great. Okay, good. I'm gonna jump back to my presentation here. So how to get started, right? I think this is a very straightforward 9-step process, from defining your services, find your target audience, develop pricing structure, all that stuff. I'm not going to go through them in detail, especially not right away. I'll talk through a few of these important points. But again, the link is there if you want to read the full document or full article is on the website from Upwork. But just before that, then the question I will then ask is for those who are starting and for those who are beginning, then what are you getting yourself into? Often freelancer, it's just not. It's not about just about your expertise, right? It's not about what you're good at. Often it's about all the work around work. Like I said, I'll tell you a bit more what it means. What I mean by that, which means that it requires you to always learn new skills, things that you are not good at yet. And it also requires you to actually do some mind shift. I'll also describe that a bit further down the road. And the faster way to learn is learn from others. So these are a few key things that I sort of thought is important for you to get a heads up to know that. So moving forward, so besides my expertise, what is it that I still need to do, right? So that's as a freelancer, in order to do the job that you are good at, often you have to do other type of job that you're not good at. For example, you need to be able to sell yourself, to market yourself, to run project manage project that you work with the client. You need to be able to handle the admin stuff, right? Invoicing, paperwork, taxes, all of that thing that you also need to do. That's different, which you don't have to do if you just work for somebody and get the salary. You just get the paycheck end of the month. But as a freelance, you need to do everything around freelancing work itself. So this is what I mean by the work around work. And one of the few skills that I think is important for you as a freelancer to pick up is to be able to learn how to storytell. It's important to be able to tell a story, tell your story, tell yourself what you're doing and why you are the best freelancer for them to hire. And also important not only to not only tell, but also to show them, right? Show them, don't just tell, right? Build your portfolio up, get your example out, get your references out, get customer references on your website. If you have different software that you have developed, put it out there for people to see, GitHub or any other thing. You want to show, you just not only tell the story, but also want to show that. So it's important to learn this skill, and which means writing skill is also important, right? So that's something that when I got started, this is also quickly I have to learn how to market myself. And it comes to sales and marketing, right? So you need to know who your customers are, where are they hanging out, which channel can you reach them, how do you reach them, how do you sell your services, what problem are you solving for, why would they pay attention to your services, to the things that you want to offer them. So these are all the things that you will also need to understand, so then you actually build a funnel of prospect of companies that you want to work with or work for, that you want them to buy your services, so that you can actually have a funnel of jobs that keep coming and a stable flow, right? Often one of the challenge we have as a freelancer is that you get a job, you get a project, you're busy with it for next, 3 months, 2 months, whatever time, 6 months. And then once you finish that mission, suddenly you have a gap because you still need some time to find the next project. Whether that will take you another, 2-3 weeks to 6 months to 3 months. So it tends to be like, busy, no work, busy, no work. So the idea is to try to have a even flow. And for that, you want to build a prospect channel. So then keep a lot of conversation going. So once your current project is running to an end, you can already start that conversation before you run out of work. So I think it's important. In order to do that, you need to have a funnel of prospect. Another thing is to also have a clear idea, what is it that you are offering, the services that you're offering, the type of work that you're offering. You need to be able to differentiate yourself, be unique, be authentic. Why would they hire you and not the other guy next to you, right? Or even more so, the other guy next to you who is in another country? Because the drawback of a freelancing business is that they got tons of choices to choose from. Why would they want to choose you? Why should they choose you? Whether that is your local company, or whether there's a company in Europe or in US, right? So the idea is really to find a way to market you in a way that you can offer something that is unique, and not necessarily to be the cheapest. The idea is to find those strengths and be able to communicate it clearly. So then you stand a chance to win a project. Another skill I think is important is mental health. Invest in yourself. What I say here, as a freelancer, the high is very high when you close a cool contract, a cool project. You say, yes, I got it. But the low is very low too, because when you don't, you get rejection or again and again before you get the next yes. So that's a typical example. And also it could be a very lonely work. As a freelancer, you tend to work alone. So you don't have work colleague that you can go and drink coffee or have lunch and all that. So it's important to note that, and also find ways to address that by joining a co-working space, by going to a regular meetup with other freelancers. I think that's important to build that community. So in that sense, it's important to keep yourself healthy mentally and physically. So that's also an important part. The next one is manage yourself. I say, the great thing about freelancing is you get a lot of freedom. With freedom comes responsibility of self-discipline. You could very quickly burn up your whole day just by doing things that it's not really necessarily productive, right? So you could scroll through your phone and spend half a day suddenly on social media, Instagram or any quickly. And if you don't check yourself, and if you don't have, in the office context and the job context, you will have your boss that sort of like us keep you accountable for the work that you need to do. But as a freelancer, even though you have a customer, but the customer will not check on you regularly. He will just expect you to deliver the result at the time when you say you will deliver. And if you miss that, then of course, then there's like, okay, you got one strike and you are out, right? As they say. So hence, it's important to keep that in mind. One of the way I noticed that some of the freelancers do is actually find mentor or coach or peers to keep them accountable. So then, they have to report back to this person, these people. So in a way, also forcing themselves to do what they say and to say what they do in that way. So that's also important to keep that in mind, especially for those who are starting up. I think this is super important. Another one that I've mentioned briefly is the administrative tasks. You need to get the invoice out. You need to ask that customer to pay your invoice. So hopefully then, before you invoice them, you have already agreed in the payment terms. You have agreed in the amount of that they should be paying you, but they still need to physically pay to get the money into your bank, right? So that's also your responsibility to make sure that they pay you, that you get paid. So in the terms that you have agreed before. And of course, then all these taxes and expense management, as a freelancer, you are a bit like a company, right? You have to pay taxes. At least in Europe here, that's very significant part of your revenue is going to tax. In Europe, it's between 30 to 40%, and you also need to also manage expenses as you buy stuff from the company. Then you have to keep receipts and all that stuff, and accountant work, and closing of the month, closing of the quarter. If you don't have accountant that work with you, then you want to find help for those if that's needed. And sometimes a lot of those services can also be done through online. But as a salary, as a worker that earn a salary every month, you don't have to worry about all this. But as a freelance, this is something that's very important to get paid. If you don't get paid, then it's just waste of your time. And how would you want to be successful, right? So the question. So the mind shift that I mentioned, important to note that don't ask for permission. As a freelancer, you are entrepreneur. You're entrepreneur, and the only one that you need to listen to is your customer and yourself. So don't ask for permission. Do what you think you should be doing, and do the right thing. Just do it, and then learn from that. If it didn't work out, that's fine. At least you learn from it. But don't wait for somebody to give you permission to do what you did that you want to do. You are not working for a manager or a company. Here you are working for yourself. So don't ask for permission. Just do it and then figure it out as you go along, which is an important mind shift, I think. Know your expertise. This seems obvious. Know what are you good at, what is it you want to do, and what do you think people will pay you for, and ask for that value that you create, right? And this is by also knowing your positioning and sweet spot. You could say there's tons of other, for example, software developer. Why would they choose you? Is it the language? Is it the type of skill set? Is it type of work that you do? Is it because you are fast, because your code is clean? If you are creative, is it because you have experience in doing design or visually appeasing, or all that different things that you need to understand what's your sweet spot and how you want to position it. Super important. And because you are one person unit, you also need to be self-aware. And here I say self-aware to the maximum, because you tend to work alone as a freelancer or together with the customer. But then the customer could either, sometimes if you have a good customer, they'll give you feedback. But if you have a regular customer, they don't often have time to give you feedback, even though you could ask explicitly. But if you're not self-aware, then you're not always 100% sure you're doing the good job, the right job, or the right thing. So in order to be super self-aware, you want to be able to constantly ask that question. Am I doing the right thing? Is this the right thing that I'll be doing? Is it what they want? Do I understand it correctly, what they said they want? So then you want to avoid misunderstanding between yourself and yourself and the customer, right? So I think that's super important, because the last thing you want to get is some sort of misunderstanding between you and the customer, and then at the end, the customer will not pay you. And that's, again, a waste of everybody's time. So self-awareness is one part to that solution. So if there will be any issue or challenge, you could be addressing it right away before it's a no return, right? So self-awareness helps you to do that. And number 5 is cultivate extreme curiosity, because I think as a freelancer, you are constantly challenged and you will face situation that you have never faced before in the past, and you will have to do things that you didn't think you need to do before. All this means that you need to learn as you go along. And the best way to learn as you go along is to cultivate this curiosity, this mind of always wondering, oh, why is it like that? Oh, how can we do it differently? Oh, can we do it differently? Is this the best way to do it? Is it a good way to do it? So those type of questions actually then opens up the conversation between you and your customer and yourself, and as you learn forward too. So this important element to keep in mind. And one more here is a follow-up. A lot of examples, or you can see that in the business world, is that people ask a question, but they don't always follow up with that question. They ask it one time and they don't follow up. And often, your customers or your working partners are busy people and they don't always have time to answer right away. And sometimes they forget to answer you. And if you don't follow up, then you don't get the answer that you're looking for. That's one example. So remember to follow up. Go all the way through the end of the process, whatever that you want to achieve. You have to make sure that you go all the way to a closure, whether that you get a yes or you get a no. At least you know. Don't let it hanging out there. And I think that's not good for you and for your customers. And the last one is ask for help. We cannot pretend to know everything, and it's normal that we don't know everything, especially if it's unknown in that sense. And when you come across something that's new or something that you don't know, you should ask. That's the idea. Ask for help. Ask your peers, ask your friend, ask the next person that you know who is working within the same area, freelancing. They will have maybe experienced it before, and they'll be happy to share with you. And it will also let you build that network, build that community, and also learn at the same time. So it's super important to keep that in mind. So how to play the long game? The long game for me is where you need to look at your brand. If you think that you are in freelancing for the next, 5, 10, 20 years or whatever time that it is, then you want to build that brand. That brand will evolve as you work your career, as you get more experience in certain things or less in others. Build it as you go along, depending what you want to get to. And the second thing is to support your network. Build a network, build community, support them, pay forward, as they say. Help people who need help with your advice, with your experience. I think that's super important, so that you actually build a strong community, because one day you also need to rely on this community to help you. So it's super important. Third one is obviously create value for your customer, create value for yourself, create value for your community that you are in. This is the best way to move forward. The more value you create, the more value you can capture and get paid for, right? So creating value is super important. To have this perspective, it's not just doing a job, doing a work. Whatever job or work that you do, you are creating value. And if you're not creating value, but rather just a job, it is still creating value somewhere, somehow, for some others. You need to understand what that is. And if you drive that to the end, the idea is that you understand what value that you create. You also understand what dollar amount you can ask for, the value that you can ask for the value that you create. So I think that's super important to understand the value creation. What value are you creating, and who are you creating value for? So I think that's super important. And then you want to also have good understanding of what's happening in the society, in businesses today, and what's going to happen in the future. Predict or understand what the future brings. The idea here is that it allows you to position yourself, the type of services that you want to do, and the type of activity that you would like to get into. And the one way to do that is to read a lot, right? Read a lot. Newspaper, relevant newspaper, specialized sector magazines, and all that in the sector that you want to be in. Learn about all that, or you can, so you can grow yourself. Because freelancing work is all about constant growth, because often, even if you are a software developer, you are constantly challenged either to learn new program or learn new integration, learn new way of doing. So that's also constantly growing. Likewise, if you are interface UX UI designer is often also challenged to do different projects in different sectors, in different use cases. So there's always this need to constant learning. So that brings me to, how do you actually get a glimpse of the future? For those of you who are familiar with Gartner hype cycle, you have those different hype cycle. And this one is actually hype cycle around digital workplace, which is basically future work. And here you can see that's what is the different trend that is happening. For example, you have generative AI. So here is innovation trigger, innovation starts, and the interest of that innovation goes up. And then you have the peak expectation. Everybody is crazy about generative AI now. And once they have gone through this cycle, you have the disillusionment. People say, oh, actually, generative AI is not that great. You cannot do X and Y, Z. So this is where the people are getting fed up with it, and it goes down. And then after a while, then they'll go through the slope of enlightenment. Actually, people realize that the expectation was just misplaced in the beginning, and people start to understand what the technology can do or cannot do, and then the real application comes in, and this is the scope of enlightenment, and then eventually it goes into plateau. So there are different chart like this that's done by Gartner. Every year they update those for different section, different segment. It's definitely important or interesting to look at how technology, for example, evolve. So in this case, this is digital workplace. And the next slide here is the technology, emerging technology. So as you can see here, the hype around all different new things like federated machine learning, generative AI is there, of course, cloud native is there, and all these other things that will eventually trickle down to the work that you'll be doing directly or indirectly. So it's important also to keep this in mind as you work towards, looking into the future. And then how to get started, right? So I come back to this earlier thing. So here, this is very simple step-by-step process that you could go through to guide you through your thinking, and also to develop the foundation for the freelance work that you want to do. And it is the few things that I've talked through, the skills that you need actually comes also there. So I have one more question to you guys, the money question. I'm going to share the link on the chat, so you can also answer that 2 question. So there, the link is, the URL is in the chat. And for those who you have a mobile phone, scan it from the slides, and it will take you to the question, and then it will start populating the answer. 2 questions there. First question is, what is the first thing you would do to start, and how much money do you want to make in your next gig? So that's the question. So I'll give you a few moments to jump to the Slido. Okay, some of you say joining the platform, having enough information to kickstart the idea, plan, set goal, make research, identifying strength, the amount of money you want to make. So if you scroll to the next question, the second one, how much money do you want to make from your first gig? That will actually, sort of trying to capture the amount of money that you want to make. More than this, great. Very cool. I like the more than this, 33%, and then the others comes. Very good. That's good. I'm glad to see this. It's again, there's no limit. I just want to put, the reason I put some numbers there is also to help you to visualize what is it that you want to get and how much is it that you want to get for your first gig. Because this is going to be part of the work that kickstarts your preparation. If you want to make 500, 500K Uganda shilling, or you want to do 1 million Uganda shilling, then you need to do the work to get there, right? So it's super important to link your ambition to make it more finite and defined, so you actually know what's your action plan that you need to do to get there. Very cool. Now I'm going to jump back to my slide. So your action plan is to start now, right? Whatever that you have written there and that you have said to yourself is to start now. I would encourage you to write your action plan down in a few words. How much do I want to make, and in what time do I want to make that, and how am I going to make that? Right. So let's say if you want to make 1 million Uganda shilling, you say, I want to make 1 million Uganda shilling in the next 3 months or 1 month or whatever that is, and I'll do this. I'll make this by doing X, and I will start by doing Y. Right. Write it down as precise, as clearly as you can in your mind, so you can visualize that and start working towards that. This is what you owe that to yourself to do that, right? So the next session I have is actually question and discussion. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I will expose that. We're about 30 plus of you guys, is to actually open up the mic if for those who have questions, and comments or thoughts for what you have seen up to now. For the next, I don't know, depending if you have a lot of questions, the next hour or half an hour or so, this is your time. I'm here. I talk enough. I think I am here to answer any questions or any thoughts that you might have. So feel free to ask me a question, say your name and say your question. Either you type it or you open the mic and we try to answer your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a gentleman whose hand was up earlier on. I can't remember the name. Are you still there? You can ask now. Now is the time. Or write in the chat.
Well, if you don't have any question, I'll ask you a question, right?
Don't be scared. People ask your questions.
I won't bite. I promise.
Yeah, maybe to make it easy for some people, I'll ask my question.
Yeah, true. Go ahead.
So we have a lot of talent in Africa as a whole, and our economy is moving. So the easiest way is for most of this talent to tap into the global markets, the American, the European, the Asian market. I don't know what you would advise or how you are seeing things from where you are, from your perspective. Because for us, it's as if all the doors are closed, all the windows are closed. Maybe if someone sees it from a different perspective, we can have a way forward. So something to do with that. How do we link with the opportunities that global, and we share the talent we have? Yeah, something like that.
It's a good
I see
question. Yeah.
also coming. So as you're answering, I'll be piling them up.
Yeah. So I will take your question, Drew. So the question, if I would frame it or reframe it, is that, you know, how can we Ugandans take advantage of the freelancing opportunity in Europe and US, and if that is even possible, right? I think sort of reframing that way. So for me, the obvious answer is yes. Now the question you need to do, or the things that you need to do, is understand what you think are the barrier. Understand that. Is it the language barrier? No, it's not, right? English is still very widely used. Is it the perception barrier? Probably part of it is linked to perception. So what type of perception? Is it linked also to the fact that there is difference in understanding culturally? Or is it linked to performance, outcome, results? Probably. So all that is a question that you want to ask yourself and to understand it. And the only way you can really understand it is to ask it to real people, right? Ask companies who are posting the job in this different platform that you apply. Right? I mean, you apply, not apply as a job, but you bid for. Understand, ask them, why didn't you get selected, or why didn't they choose you, or was it because, you know, something that you've done differently that they expected? These are conversations that you want to have with the companies who are actually putting project out there. So you can get a real-time feedback. Even if you don't get the project, that's fine, because you don't get it first time, you don't get it second time, but don't be discouraged. The third time you will get it, because you have learned from your first and second time what you need to do to meet that. So that's one way. Second way is often what I see when company posts the job there, they have some sort of certain expectation level. And in order to get to the interview session or conversation, they would want to understand, can you do the job? Is there a risk that you might not be able to do the job? Is there a risk that they have to manage you and detail everything out, that the requirement they need from you? Will you be actually becoming a burden for them instead of helping them solve a job? So that they tend to be evaluating you from that way, which means that they will like to have super efficient people who come in and understand the requirement right away and then deliver the result that they say they can deliver. So it means that you will need to be able to understand whatever that they're requesting clearly, and tell them clearly, okay, I think this is what you want. This is what you said you want. Do I understand it correctly? Yes or no, right? So it also shows that you understand their requirement, you understand what they're asking for, and hence, you can get to the next level of conversation. Okay, what budget are you talking about? Is the budget mentioned? If not, and is it realistic timeline? Yes or no? All these are conversations that you want to have. And the more you have this type of conversation, the more you can learn what is the market expectation, whether that's US is very different compared to Europe, and within Europe is also very different. If you're talking to a German company, or if you're talking to a UK English company, or a Belgian company for that sense. So it's really important for you to start that exercise now. And I think often what I've seen is you guys have an advantage because you have a price point advantage. Assuming if your performance and skill is the same level as a developer from Europe or from US, but your budget that you can accept is actually a step change difference. But keep in mind, you don't always have to sell because you sell cheap. That's not the idea. But the idea is that you have more flexibility to adjust your pricing based on the expectation that they have, right? Which is Europe pricing or US pricing. So I think it's important to flip that around and make it to your advantage. And the third point I will make is that often what I see a lot is that freelancer come together and form a brand in Upwork, for example. You can create companies and Upwork, and that companies is the umbrella of 5 or 6 or whatever many freelancers that work together. And this company is the one who respond to the bid. And hence, because if you is an umbrella of 5 or 6 freelancer, each time you complete a task, you actually get better rating. So then historically, people say, oh, this company actually have done five projects because there's, and each one of you have done one before. And it will actually increase your reputation and make you much more, that seems to be more reliable and know what you're doing. So that's also another way to play the system, if you like. So that's also important to keep that in mind. So that's my long answer to Drew. I see there's also a hands up, Rebecca, and there's a few questions on the chat. So let's take Rebecca, and then we'll come back to the question on the chat.
You
Rebecca,
can unmute
please.
and speak.
Hi, thank you very much. This is awesome. I think for me, my important thing is like how to spot fakes. The fake websites and stuff, like already from like the Amazon Mechanical Turk, it's not the first, the actual website is not the first one in the search results. And obviously, because you don't know the site very well, there's a bunch of other websites with very similar URLs, which are the first ones that pop up until you find out they're asking you for like $127 as an initial deposit to like submit your profile or some like nonsense like that.
Yeah.
But some other things, sorry.
No, it's a good question. And
like this one is, sorry, my phone was ringing. There was, that's obviously an obvious one, right? But the others I don't, may be even harder to spot. Like for instance, I'm a copywriter, but for designers, it's easy for them to safeguard their work. Like you can just put a watermark in it and you can't use it until maybe I get paid for it. But if I'm a writer, then my deliverables, I have to submit an article to you. And once you have it, you have it. Like there's no real protection there, you understand?
Yeah.
So it's very easy for us to get fleeced. So maybe like, what are the telltale signs? Are there like obvious websites that don't have like a good track record? Are there like telltale signs of like a client is going to be shady? And then maybe like another question in there is another problem with like the continent as a whole is the whole payment structure. Like we don't have like PayPal and things like that, which are actually the ones where you get protected in submitting your work and things like that. And it doesn't mean that we don't have sophisticated payment structures of our own as we've developed as a continent, like M-Pesa and all mobile money and whatnot, but no one's going to put those up there, right? Like are there like five websites, if you will, which are like, you know what, these are very African friendly, these maybe don't have as many scammers or don't have scammers. You get where I'm going with this? Yes, that's it. Thank you, Denny.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the good question. So you have multiple questions. I'm going to try to work through them one by one. The first question is how to identify fake platform. I think that part for me is fairly straightforward. If you find a new platform, what you could do and what I would do is put that name and put it into LinkedIn. And very quickly you see who works on that platform, who works for that platform on LinkedIn. Yeah, and you can see if this is real people or fake people very quickly. You can see if there's multiple people or not, and whether these people are active or not on LinkedIn, right? And then from the LinkedIn profile, then you can also click then to go to the main platform. If it's the same one, not the same one, you can very quickly check that. And that's one. And second is do a quick Google, right? Whatever the name of the platform, and then you say review or ratings, just put it in Google and you see what people say. Often, if they are being there for a while, if they are doing shady stuff, there's always some trace people rat them out. So that's one thing. Now, second part of your question is how do you identify fake post within a legit platform, right? That's also possible. Some shady company trying to post something that is, that job that is not there, or job that just want to take your work and run away for free. That one is a bit more harder, right? I will do the same. I will put the name of the company that is asking people to bid for the project or to submit the project onto LinkedIn and see who are there. Again, LinkedIn give you another layer of double check if these people are real or they are just making it up as you go along. That's one way. Second way is also, often you will have some occasion to chat with them, whether that's message or exchange or email. They will also give you a layer of understanding. Now, of course, if they are there to try to do scamming, then they will try to cover all that track. But often you will find that it's a bit, they don't always go all the way to cover the track. So very quickly you can see through them. And then the third question is, how can you get paid so they don't rip off your work and without paying you? I think that's a super good question, and it comes down to the payment terms that you could agree. What type of payment term will you be agreeing? Whether is it going to be partial payment that you will take, I don't know, say something 30% of the amount of the project when they contract you, and then you take the 70% later on when you deliver the full project. It's also up to negotiation, right? Often, if you ask for something that is a reasonable company will agree, whether that is 30% upfront when the contract is signed, or whether that's whatever that percentage that makes sense. And if they don't want to agree with that, and then you can say, okay, maybe it's not worth the effort. So that's one. And I think often is to start with a small project, even for the company, and build that relationship up slowly. You also then increase the confidence and also the trust level. Start with a small project and then build it up slowly as you get into a bigger project. For copywriter, translator, indeed, it's hard once you send it out. It's out, your result. But often, you would want to understand where they would use that content, right? Is it going to be on the website? Is it going to be internal document? Is it going to be whatever that is? Then if there will be any problem, assuming they scam you, you can actually then make a negative publicity of that, whatever that is, so then it will also help others next time. So I think that's something that that you can consider. That's a few things that's come to my mind, Rebecca, in that sense. Payment method, I think, is important to see, like you said, the different payment style, but also, you can always break the payment down to smaller chunk. Whether that is true in Europe, in Helsinki, you have mobile pay. You can pay with the mobile, just texting the amount to the number. That's also possible. It could be also done through, I think there's different platform that's starting now, escrow system, where you actually block a bunch of money. Then it's a middleman that's hold the money for you guys, and then once everybody's happy, then it will actually release the money. But that type of services is maybe less available in the continent. But something maybe, again, opportunity to do startup ideas, right? To do that. That's what I have for you, Rebecca. If you have any other questions or has a follow-up, just let me know. Now let's run through the question we have on the chat there.
I can help you. Pick because there's a lot in the chat.
Please.
Yeah, so one of the questions is away from the freelance platforms, are there agencies that we can tap into in Europe? Did I read all of you answer one by one, or you first answer, then I continue like that?
Yeah, cool. So yeah, freelance gig agency in Europe that can tap into. Yeah, definitely. I think Often, agency that work that way could also be in the continent, or could also be in Europe. The key role they play is actually to be the middleman between the people who need to do the work and the company, right? So in that sense, it's like an agency, like a manpower agency. There are a few of those, but often in Europe, it's really about placement of real people, real jobs there. I'm less familiar with people who only do purely remote work. There are a few remote work platforms that focus on the remote work. But essentially what they're all doing is actually to build credibility and match the job and the people. But besides the matching the job and the people, they are actually building credibility from both sides, from the company side and on behalf of the worker. And hence, if you look at it in terms of building credibility, is it better to build your own credibility instead of relying on an agency that takes, I don't know, 10%, 20%, or 30% of the cut? That's for you to see, right? Like I said, building credibility could also be forming your own group of freelancer that has track record. So that's also one way to do that. And on top of my head, I'm not familiar with any platform right away, but something that I can look at to get into and come back to you if there's any other specific freelancers agency like that. So that's what I have for that question.
Yeah, I think I connect with what you're saying, Denny. I think it's because we fear the perception, the culture difference, all these things, and we always want agencies and platforms. But unless we pull up our socks and set up something on our own, would miss out. Yeah, so let me go to the next question. I think this one is a software development question, but I know where it came from. You had a slide about hype, how there's always hype around AI and all these emerging technologies. So this gentleman was asking about programming languages, the hype around programming languages. So does he need to go with what is popular, or he should use other means of looking for what to use?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's a question not only for not only for developer, but also for companies, right? When they are in the midst of deciding which programming software to use to develop the product, and hence for the developer which language they need to learn. So let's take it first from the company perspective. Company has often decides to choose one program language to the other based on either they have a legacy system in place or not. Meaning that if they have a legacy system, how they can connect this legacy system with this new development that they want to do. That's one. And second is if there's a small startup, a small group of founding members, it also depends on what skills they have in-house, what type of programming language skill they have. The reason for that is then if they have, like, say, Python or JavaScript or whatever that is, Ruby on Rails or whatever, then it can actually much more easier to measure the quality of the work of the programmer who is going to be developing the same languages. So purely to do quality check and also to be able to integrate it into the existing module. So that's from a company perspective. Now, so it could be either way, right? That's the typical reasoning. Now, from a freelancer perspective, then if you have mastered already one skill, whether that's JavaScript, then that's probably what you are the most performance that you are good at, which means that you know all the workaround, you know the libraries, you know the objects, you know how to actually do shortcut and do faster programming. Now, then the question there is that when you see a project that is asking for Python, but you know JavaScript, what do? Then the question you would like to ask the company is that, okay, why would you want to use Python? What are the functionalities of key features that you need? Is there a hard let's say a hard barrier to move to JavaScript? If you understand the functionality that the functionality of software that they need can be done either through JavaScript or Python, then it's your opportunity to tell them, hey, I can help you do this in JavaScript. in a shorter time even, you know. And if you understand what type of software and where they need to connect to, then there's no barrier to use JavaScript. Then half of the time they'll be okay, right? They will also be impressed the fact that you actually will be consulting them and guide them to move into different software that's much more productive, effective, or shorter time, whatever that benefit would be. However, if there's legacy system, of course, then they'll be less flexible. So that's from software developer perspective. Now, second part to that question is that, of course, as a software developer, you increase your chance of success in bidding for project if you have more different languages that you can master. Now, the question, however, for you is, can you get enough job only by mastering JavaScript, or do you need to master also other languages, whether that is all at the back end or it's all at the front end, right? So hence it becomes not only a type of project question, but also in terms of your development, your self-development. What is it that you want to do more? Are you more towards front end or is it back end? If you're toward front end, then what other skills will you need to group or to get besides that skill? Or if you're into back end like JavaScript, server code, what other skills do you need to learn in that long run? And if that's the case, then it's us bidding for a project that on the skills that you don't have yet will be a stretch. What you want to do is probably create projects based on these new skills and work on your own side project on the skill that you're learning. And then once you have completed this side project, you can use it as your portfolio references of this new language that you learn, and then use that as a platform to get a new project. So hence two parts to that question to you, Kamali.
Yeah, thank you. Then one more, Elizabeth is asking two in one. One question is in line with transitioning from full-time employment to full-time freelancing.
Yeah.
She's asking if you were in such a situation, how would you go about it? And then the other question is around work-life balance.
Yeah.
She's even asking if it's something feasible, even realistic, or it's yeah. Have you been in a situation where you've had to handle work-life balance, and how did you do it?
Yeah, definitely. It's all the time changing. The balance is always changing. Like I mentioned earlier, since my first freelance gig to now, I have constantly moved back and forth from full-time job to freelance job to startup work. All this is rotating in a different at a different time. So each time when that change, that transition, is always this question, and how do I try to plan forward? Now, first part of the question, freelance versus full-time, I think it's a great opportunity you have there. If you have a full-time job, that's good, congratulations. It also provides you some security net, right? If you have a full-time job. But it's also a problem because then you're not hungry enough, right? Because you already have your full-time salary job. Why do the extra work to get into freelance? In the short term, that would be not very motivating for you, because why do the extra work? But if your intention to do freelance is to get more freedom to do the things that you like to do, because your full-time job is boring or not the thing that you really want to do, but you do it because you need to pay the bills, then there's good reason to plan for a freelance job while you still have your full-time job. Meaning that do it as a part-time freelancing during your full-time job. Build up your reputation, build up your experience, build up your network in freelancing. So when the day comes, you can actually say thank you very much to your full-time job and quit and go straight to freelance. But then you have already the 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, whatever time ahead to plan for that, and that will give you a smooth transition. So that will be the first part. Now, in terms of work-life balance, it's your life. You choose what's your priority for you. But what's important is your health. If you are not feeling well, if you're not feeling good, regardless if it's freelance or full-time work, it's still not good. Then something is off. So you first need to see what works for you. And from there, you work it out. It doesn't have to be a balanced thing. It's more about also planning in a way that when you do freelance, you have more flexibility to plan your work accordingly. You could have a period that you are more busy and a period that you are chill, and or a period that you just do half a day or 3 days a week. I have in the past opportunity to work 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days, is just do other things that not related to work. That's also possible to get that there. All is possible as long as you work towards that clear plan that you want to have. And work-life balance is a big word, but what it means at the end is that you want to have a situation where you are happy, right? If you're happy and you can still, pay the bills and all that, then what is priority for you, right? Then you need to understand that and work towards that. And freelance is a great way to get that because you have the flexibility to plan it that way. Freelance could also take you to, if you like traveling, digital nomad, it opens up endless world because, you are the master of your ship in that way. You do wherever you need to work. So that's my sort of answer and sub-answer to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you. Elizabeth says thank you for your response. Then the last two questions. One is around community. I think you talked about something to do with communal freelancing. So Dixon is asking, in a situation where you can't find a freelance community for your craft, let me see. What is the ideal way in starting up one?
Yeah.
And it's around that really.
That's a great question. If not for whatever reason, you cannot find your tribe or your community in next to your house or in your city that you live in, that is of course unfortunate, but that's also fine. It happens, and that's where the beauty of internet comes in, right? In internet, there is no limitation to who you can connect with and where you can join or whichever tribe that you can find. If you go to a meetup website, then if you are interested into whatever hobby that you have, you can always find people who are interested in a similar thing with you, whether that's for work or whether that is for leisure. Join that community remotely, right? Join that community remotely. Join them even if you have to mean that you are in different time zone. If you mean that you have to do remote thing, join them. Join it because then often this community will be a bit more advanced, assuming they are, or they're just starting up regardless, is that you build that network internationally, and then you bring that network back to Uganda because it's not there yet, right? Because you cannot find it in the first place. So join a community that is abroad, and then you bring that community to Uganda. So then you will be the person who actually bring that community to your local community and start that. As simple as if it's, let's say, it's the thing that you want to join has a member or group of people in meetup. Join that meetup, and then next time you organize a local meetup in your community in Uganda, and you invite people to join you. And this is how then you start your own community, by connecting them to the international one, right? So that's how I would start. And freelance community in the world, there's plenty. I think if you look at freelancing at the continental level in African continent, there's also probably will be a bigger community there. So join those that are nearest to you, if that makes sense. Or if not, then join the European community, because then from there, if you start making friends and connection, then people get to know you and they get to know your skills. And once a new project comes in, they will also remember to think about you. So that's what I would say to you. Dixon, yeah. Next one. Is there another one through?
Yeah, one more. The last one is about time management.
Yeah.
Collins is asking, how do you manage time between the different tasks as a freelancer, taxes, learning, getting skills? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one because you would have time always to do things that you like to do. There's always time for that. And you have never time for things that you don't like to do, like filling up taxes or do the paperwork and all that stuff. And the only way to do it is to plan time for that, and keep yourself accountable. Because if you don't do that type of administrative task, it will not come. Nobody's going to do it, and then eventually you just procrastinate and wait and wait and wait, and then eventually you will have to do it because you get penalized or whatever, one way or the other. So in terms of tax filing and all that. So that's one thing. Second thing is personal development is not a side project. Personal development, learning new skill is a full-time job, because if you stop investing in yourself, then that's the end of your career as a freelancer. So it is a serious thing. It is an important thing that you need to pay, be ready to pay. You need to pay yourself first, right? If that means attending a paid class to learn a new programming skill, if it means a paid, buy a ticket to go to a conference that specializes in the area that you are active, pay, because it will pay you back double. Don't stinge on that, right? Make sure that you plan enough money for that, so you can actually do it. Often what I do is that I cost it into a customer cost, whatever project cost. I say, okay, I need to go to this conference, and your job costs this much, but I need to add this additional cost, and then hence I'm going to mark it up. And then eventually it is the customer who pay me to go to the conference, for example. You need to be creative to find ways to fund your own development and training. It also means often it's just having time to join the conference, having time to join this session today, for example. You are investing 2 hours of your time to learn about this thing. So this is investment to your time. So, it's definitely something that pay you back double. So you want to make sure, don't stinge on training and learning new skills for yourself, because that's the only way you can progress. Because in the old world, if you join a company, they have a training, personal development plan, and all that stuff. Somebody plan it for you. But as a freelancer, if you don't plan it for yourself, nobody's going to plan it in for you. So make sure you do it. Plan it every year. Plan time for that. 1 month, 1 week, whatever that is. Look forward. If there's a conference, you say, "Oh, this is the great conference for this type of work that I do. I want to budget that in for next year." Work for that. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never seen it that way. You can work for your personal development.
Definitely.
And it's a cycle. And the
Yes.
personal development will work for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so thank you so much. It's been a beautiful session. I've been taking notes. I'm going to share with you some of my tips that I've caught. If you have any others, you can put them on the chat so that we share them. But one of the things I have here, freelancing is not just about your expertise, it's also about the work around the work.
Yes.
That's tasks and responsibilities that come with running the business. Another thing I have here is, in the world of freelancing, the highs are very high and the lows are very low. So with all that freedom, it comes with unpredictability of income, workload, but especially mental well-being. One of the things I have here, freelancing comes with a lot of freedom, but it also requires even greater self-discipline. Freelancers should always support their network with any assistance they need, because that same network is going to help you when you need them. Freelancers should collaborate together, come up with maybe an umbrella so that if they are bidding, they have higher chances and a better portfolio. Then the one we've just talked about, I missed some, personal development.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and the day you stop learning is the day your career ends. So if you have any of these things, share them in the chat or air them out, and then we'll share them with the people who are not here. Yeah,
Definitely.
thank you so much, Denny.
Thank you, Drew. But before we go, I have the last work for you guys. Slide number 4 is the question to rate this session. So you can rate me, basically tell me how I'm doing. So again, the URL is in the chat, and then for those who have the mobile phone, you can scan the QR code. Then you can rate me, basically. All right, very cool. I have also the slides. I'll share that with Drew, and then Drew, then you can circulate this with the people, the participant, and if you have any questions, you can come back to me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I also put on my LinkedIn connection on the deck. So I also put it here on the chat just in case. So you can connect with me directly, ask me question. And thank you for the rating. So 69% of you think is 5-star, and then 20% is 4-star. Thank you for taking time also to participate in this Slido session. So I'm happy to be able to get some of your feedback right away. Thank you very much. And I think I'm done. Yeah.
Thank you. Denny is very active on LinkedIn, so you follow him on LinkedIn. It's his superpower. He's always at LinkedIn, even at midnight. So the link, in case you are on the call and you didn't register, the link is in the chat, because that's where we are going to put the slides and everything. The recording is also going to be shared. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you so much, Denny. Thank you so much, everyone who attended. Let's meet.
Thank you, guys, and good luck with your freelance plan, and speak to you guys soon. Take care now. Bye.